Opening disclaimer. Tone set. SFX. Low, steady pulse. Courtroom ambience. Fading in. Vo. Some days in court feel heavier than others. Judges try not to show emotion, but even the calmest courtroom can carry a storm. What you're about to hear are real cases, not to sensationalize violence, but to understand how choices, accountability, and the law collide. We avoid graphic detail. We focus on facts, consequences, and the people who must live with what happened. Breathbeat main narration, Vo. In the mid-1990s, near a Tennessee campus, jealousy turned into a plan and then a tragedy. A 19-year-old student lured another young woman off campus. What began as anger escalated, and a life was lost. Investigators followed the trail, witnesses talked, evidence was collected, and arrests were made. In court, the lead defendant admitted she knew exactly what she was doing. The defense described a difficult childhood. The prosecution stayed fixed on the facts and the pain of a grieving family. The jury returned guilty on all counts. Under state law at the time, the judge imposed the harshest penalty available. Others involved received different sentences according to their roles and ages. For the family, there was no moving on, only learning how to live with the loss, and the reminder that jealousy can spread faster when friends enable bad choices. Across the country in California, a high school athlete was simply walking home. He carried a red bag. A gang member saw him, misjudged what he represented, and opened fire. The victim was 17, someone's son, someone's classmate, part of a future that suddenly ended. Police made an arrest. In court, a mother said she could not forgive. A father talked about the empty chair at the dinner table. The defendant's history and release status came under scrutiny. After testimony and weeks of arguments, the jury found first-degree murder. Judge imposed the death penalty as state law, then allowed, with appeals and policy debates to follow. One misjudgment shattered multiple families and reminded the public why community safety and accountability are central to sentencing. In Florida, a household dispute became a double tragedy. A mother and her 11-year-old daughter were killed. Investigators tracked the suspect after days on the run. In court, jurors heard how a text sparked an argument that escalated within minutes. They learned how the child tried to escape and how an entire family's world changed at once. After deliberations, the jury recommended death. The judge agreed, citing the terror the child must have felt and the lasting harm on the family. The defendant showed no remorse. This case became a solemn warning about domestic tensions and how early intervention, conflict mediation, family support, safe exit plans can save lives before the worst happens. In Ohio, two friends plotted a robbery. When they realized a friend was home, the plan shifted and a fatal attack followed. Investigators traced purchases made in advance, recovered messages, and mapped out step-by-step coordination. In interrogation rooms, the two suspects blamed each other. One accepted a deal and cooperated. The other went to trial as the mastermind. Before sentencing, the defendant spoke, asking for mercy and promising to change. The victim's parents described birthdays that would never come and milestones that would never be reached. The jury unanimously recommended death for the mastermind. The co-defendant received life. The judge emphasized a hard truth. Leadership in violent crime carries the heaviest consequences, and just following orders doesn't erase responsibility. Some crimes targeted people not because of who they were to the perpetrator, but because of what they represented. In South Carolina, a young white supremacist entered a historic black church during Bible study. He sat among the worshippers, then carried out a racially motivated attack that shocked the nation. He was arrested the next day. Evidence showed online writings, photos, and practice shooting. In federal court, prosecutors proved a hate crime motive. The defendant admitted what he did, showing no remorse. A jury returned a federal death sentence, rare at that level, signaling how the justice system responds to terror against a faith community. In the aftermath, families and community leaders spoke not only for justice, but for healing, reminding the country that faith and resilience can stand in the same room as grief. In Colorado, a school faced the nightmare everyone fears. 2 students opened fire, wounding several and killing an 18-year-old who charged a gunman to protect his classmates. That act of courage helped stop the attack. Police arrested the suspects. In court, families described injuries, fear, and classrooms that felt different forever. One defendant received life without parole. The other, under 18, received life with the possibility of parole after decades, consistent with Supreme Court rulings for juveniles. The message was complicated but clear. The law recognizes differences for minors, even in severe cases, and yet the need for prevention, threat reporting, counseling, and school safety never ends. Heroes can stop a tragedy, but real success is stopping it from starting. On a Florida roadside, a deputy pulled over a vehicle linked to stolen property. Moments later, she was shot and killed. The suspect fled and was captured. In court, prosecutors argued the shooting was deliberate to avoid prison. The defense suggested impaired judgment, but a toxicology expert challenged that claim. The jury returned guilty of first-degree murder. The judge imposed death, later commuted to life after higher court rulings changed the legal landscape. A roadside memorial remains, a reminder of the risks officers take and of the legal system's checks and balances, trials, appeals, and the power of higher courts to alter sentences without erasing accountability. Not every teen case ends in life without parole. In Florida, a 14-year-old got pulled into a string of armed robberies. No one was killed, but multiple life sentences followed. Years later, the Supreme Court clarified that juveniles must have a meaningful opportunity for release. The young man returned to court. A judge reviewed his age then, his conduct in prison, and expert testimony about adolescent brain development and how easily teens can be led by adults. The sentence was reduced to a term of years, still punishment, still accountability, while creating a distant possibility of supervised release. In victim statements, people described a gun to the head, the fear, the sleepless nights. The court had to balance harm, public safety, and rehabilitation, showing how juvenile sentencing has evolved, with victims' trauma still at the center. Some cases raise different questions: competency and mental health. In Washington, a young man called police and later admitted to killing 2 relatives. In court, he interrupted proceedings and behaved erratically. His defense requested a mental health evaluation. Prosecutors warned he posed a risk to others, including another family member. Judges in such moments must answer a narrow legal question: is the defendant competent to stand trial? That means understanding the process and being able to assist in their defense. Courts can order treatment to restore competency. If restored, the case proceeds. Through all of it, families and communities ask for safety, for answers, and for a system where people get help before corners are turned that no one can come back from. And there are nights that alter multiple families forever. In Rhode Island, a 16-year-old opened fire in a home, killing 3 people. At sentencing, relatives described birthdays that will never be celebrated and rooms that will never feel the same. The court imposed a life sentence, and age can explain some decisions. It does not excuse deadly violence. The words of survivors and families shape how we remember these cases and why prevention, mentoring, safe neighborhoods, and early help matter at every step. Closing. Call to action. VO. These cases are heavy. They hurt to hear, but they teach us that choices carry weight. Friends can pull you down or lift you up. Hate never helps. The law tries to balance punishment, public safety, and, when possible, a path to change. If you or someone you know is in danger or struggling, ask for help now. Talk to a counselor, a teacher, a faith or community leader, or reach out to local hotlines. Preventing the next tragedy starts long before a judge speaks. End card, readable on screen as you fade out. Vol. If you see something, say something. Support youth programs and mental health resources. In memory of all victims and survivors. SFX, gentle resolve, fade to silence.